wase, hata watoto surely, wezi kuwa tuna hiyo utu kidogo tu. Useme, wachana nao. Uko hapo unashinikiza huyo MC, huyo the whoever, I don't know if it was an MC or a name, choma hao. This is not a human being we are dealing with, you guys. This is not a human being. Na mimi hata sahi mtu akuja niambie Zaka alichukua mamake mwenye kumza akamkatakata into pieces na akauza hizo pieces, I will not be shocked. I will not be shocked because this is no longer, unajua ule mtu mwenye kutoka ujana yake amezoea kuua, it's like kuua mtu. Njirongo alisema one time they went for something in somewhere in Kitale, na vijana wakakuja wakaleta rapture. When they brought rapture, I don't know what happened, akashika one of those vijana. Njirongo was his bosom buddy, ndio walikuwa wanatoa naye hizo ma 500 yenye Moi alikuwa amewambia wa print. Akachukua akashika jamaa akamgeusa shingo, you know the way you nini a chicken venye unaistaningi shingo mpaka inakufa. He did it with his bare hands. He said he looked like he was possessed by a demon when he was doing that thing, and he just did it, na akamwacha hapo na akaingia kwa gari, and he behaved like nothing. He hasn't done anything. That is the character we are dealing with. I wish people can understand that is the kind of a character who we are dealing with. We are not dealing with a normal human being. Huu ni shetani mwenyewe tunadili na yeye, na he is capable of anything. Mimi hata hiyo saga ya Mackenzie na hao watu waliuliwa, and I can tell you hao watu wameuliwa more than 3,000. Wachana na hiyo venye wanashinda wakituambia 400 people. The membership of that church alone was 3,000. Wachana na wenye walitoka nje. So many people died in that place. Na Mackenzie hakuna kitu ungemuuliza. There was a guy who was watoto yake watatu, vijana yake watatu, 1 to 3 walikuwa wameingizwa kwa hiyo cult na firstborn yake. Anaenda kwa police station. Police wanamwambia this guy, there's nothing we can do. He's protected. Okay? Because wewe go as a saizi enda uingie kwa forest, ulete watu hapo anze kuishi hapo. You tell me if local authorities will not ask you anything. If DCI hawatakuwa on your neck the next day. So there's so much evil which is going on in this country, and the nexus of all these things pamoja na hizi accident zenye zina happen day in day out. Because time ya Moi, this is how it used to be. By the way, saizi tuko kwa deja vu. Those of us who grew up during Moi time, we are feeling like we are in deja vu. Because unajua Moi alikuwa na to gaslight, anaua huko, then anakuja anatuambia huko alicommit suicide. Huko mwenye alicommit suicide, he has been burnt by acid, he has been shot. Unashindwa ni mtu gani atajishoot tena ajimwagilia acid. So tulikuwa mpaka tunaletewa Scotland Yard from England ati to come and investigate. Paka anaua tourist kama Julie Ward because kijana yake alijaribu kumtune akakataa kuingia box. Wanamuua, wanamwagilia acid in the Masai Mara. So that is his role model now. That's the kind of a character we are dealing with, guys. He can do anything, this guy. Anything. He doesn't have a soul. What we should be thinking about is how we can check this guy. That is the only help we can get. Nothing else will help us until that guy atoke kwa kiti. So long as he's in that seat, we will see mambo zenye hatujaiona. Thank you.
Wow, sorry, Malia, you need to mute, and pole kwa hiyo. I know it's quite an emotional moment. Yeah, and yes, that is quite the reality that some 5, 6, 7-year-olds are not known their whereabouts for the past 72 hours. Something Malia said there that has really caught me is we move on very fast. The Godfather is here with us. It is quite an emotional way to start a week, but yeah, somebody has to speak about it. The Godfather, talk to me.
Very well. Thank you, MC Peter. Naona kama co-host ametoroka. The speakers here. What a topic. Stop Adani JKI deal. I'll go to the topic. I think Malia has mostly touched on the historical facts about the CIC, the Commander in Chief, and as per the Constitution, the President of Kenya. And it's very complex when you look at the psyche of a Kenyan voter, because a Kenyan voter had options. Forget about Raila, they still had Kagame and they had this other guy, and they still chose the man from Sugoi. So, yeah, that is something we cannot discuss. And the people who voted for those, people will always look with a lot of suspicion, especially if they were adults. Then we'll be looking at them with a lot of suspicion because we can't trust their judgment on matters national interest. But that is a story for another day. The JKIA Adani deal. An airport is basically the port of entry and the first impression of a country. You feel it at the airport. Why it matters and why you see we're making noise. However little, but we're making some noise to see that maybe something can be done right. And even if there must be some partnership of some sort to ensure that we improve on service delivery, whether it is modernizing the airport, etc., etc. It should not be through a concession agreement that basically we're going to lose that, we're going to lose our, so to speak, control in this particular very important port of entry. It's gonna be a matter, could even be a matter of national security. I'm not sure, but someone is insinuating that there may be some issues to do with like money laundering or organ harvesting and trade, etc. These are some of the issues that possibly could happen. We know that, or even drugs trafficking. We know that the ports of India and the ports of Pakistani are notorious for such kind of engagements. So, with the Adani Group having full control of this very important um, installation, then I guess we have a problem and we need to make some noise. And I agree with the Nelson's take earlier on yesterday that hey, Adani Group wants to pump in money to build to modernize our airport. Well and good. Why don't we give them some idle land somewhere where they can build an international airport? In any case, Kenya deserves too. And those who still want to use JKIA will use JKIA. The other part can be both for cargo and passengers, and we break even because other airports like Eldoret and Kisumu are not as international as we claim they are. Maybe Mombasa is only serving Dubai, but they're not that international. And if you can have another airport that can be truly international and is close to the capital city, that's a good idea. I'm suggesting Nakuru because of its proximity and the dwelling of the Nairobi Nakuru highway, among other things. You see, also with the potential that Nakuru has as a county in terms of whether it's sports, it's home for some of the sporting greats and all that. I mean, that airport can really serve that place. And most people heading to maybe Western Kenya do not need to jet through JKIA. They can go to Nakuru and figure out how they move from Nakuru, so to other parts of the country that are close to, in those along those Western Kenyan belt. So yes, but why are we outraged? I think we are not like necessarily against the airport being modernized. I think we are mostly outraged because this deal has been done secretly, that we do not trust the government to have done the right thing. We think there's some underdealing, just like the SGR, and most likely, eventually, it's going to cost the taxpayer and a leg and an arm. And that is something that we're very cautious as Kenyans because we've seen this before. So that is why we are outraged, and that's why we're thinking, hey, let's look at this matter again. And if for some reason, the reasoning behind the whole thing, then let's begin the whole process. Let there be participation, public participation of whatever sort. Let's agree that, yes, we need to modernize the airport, but what concessions can we give Adani? Because this is a critical infrastructure that is of national security. Remember, at one time during Kibaki's era, those who are younger may not understand, Kenya was the hub of the East African hub for drug trafficking. This has happened before. We were controlling JKIA. It still happened. How much more when people who are known to do this in their own airports have access to such a critical infrastructure? Then I guess we begin to lose confidence in the whole deal. And what concession should we give them? These are some of the, if at all everything has been done and is above board, then we need to agree on what concessions we need to give Adani to do what they have to do. If at all other factors considered, that there are other mess in India and other parts of the world, in Australia, etc., notwithstanding, we would work with them as an Adani group to manage this project in Kenya. And we agree, okay, they could do something for us. Let's come up with things that they can do, but certainly not to manage the airport. That's our precept. That is our pride. So those are my opening remarks. And yeah, someone was suggesting that the Chigali airport and the airport in Dar costed 2 million USD to construct. Those are lies, unfortunately. And Marabu, we try to be as factual as possible, as much as we're trying to inject. For perspective, 2 million USD may not even be able to build your former primary school. That is considering both land and as well as the infrastructure that you put in place. A modern airport, for perspective, costs at least $1 billion USD. So let's also have those figures in perspective to understand what it means, so that we don't seem like we don't know what we are doing. This movement is important, but you must also be factual. I yield. Thank you, MC Peter and DK.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I don't know where DK has gone, but DK. Wanataka kumaliza DK kisiasa.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to Home Run with Pippi.
Well, welcome to Home Run People, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm glad that the Godfather said we need to talk about numbers. I'll be giving you short numbers before this, but I would like to say thank you so much to Lynn for opening the tip jar for the week. Ladies and gentlemen, you can support Home Run with PP by going into the tip jar line 0721948229 to support our show. Of course, we make it as sociable as possible. Today, on Mondays, we always talk about investment. And what is a better investment as our taxes? So today we are talking about the Adani JKIA deal. My friend, the Godfather here, has asked us to use real numbers. So let me just read you back. Let's take you back to something that is going to be nice. Yeah, let us talk. According to the 75-page document, termination of the agreement due to the government's default or prolonged material adverse government action will see Adani get compensation. Just a minute. We'll see Adani get compensation covering 100% of the debt, 150% of adjustment, equity, redundancy payments, subcontractors break costs, up to an agreed amount, and transfer costs, including stamp duties, transfer taxes, and registration fees for the returning of the airport to the government. The government agrees to shield Adani from losses, liabilities, costs, and claims arising from breaches. Let me tell you guys, you are looking for the right business environment. Now, this is an ideal business environment. The government agreed to shield Adani from losses, liabilities, costs, and claims arising from breaches of the agreement, defective right to the airport site, and third-party claims from death, injury, or property damage due to grantor's negligence. Now, if wewe ni wakili, vuta stool karibu. Inamaanisha kwamba if you're working in Adani or you have an injury right there at the JKIA, the government has agreed to shield them from claims of death. So if somebody dies at the airport, Adani is not held liable. Injury or property damage due to grantor's negligence. How does that sound like as facts, Godfather?
Social conversations, engaging topics on your phone anywhere. This is Home Run with Pippi.
Kevin Kenya, how are you doing?
Okay, I'm good.
Yes, welcome to the show. Talk to us.
Thank you. Okay, what is wrong with this government? Because everything that is happening, there's a lot of question. They cannot explain. They don't have an answer. We have questions everywhere. Tuanzie kwa funding model, questions hawawezi explain. Tukuje kwa hizi za Adani ndio hizo question hawawezi explain. Saizi unasikia sana kuna watu more than 40. Hao watoto wako wapi? Hawajui. What's wrong with this government? Tuli-elect killers wakuja watuue ama manze watoto bana. Mnataka kutuambia hizo mastaa zote zimepita. Kuna crackdown imewekwa mahali ya kutafuta watoto? No. Wanatuambia aje wajui mahali wako? This guy bana, huyu jamaa amekuja kutumaliza man. And it's high time sisi kama Kenyans sasa tunafaa tushikane kimoja na tutoe mse. Ona Adani, let's take for example. Okay, sawa. Example, wame take over for that 30 years. Ku-upgrade your airport ita take how long? Wape most 5 years. So hiyo 25 years watakuwa wanafanya nini? Kutumia the same airport yenye wana upgrade. So after that 25 years, which itakuwa 30. Unadhani tutakuwa tumebaki na airport yenye tunaweza sema ati sisi tutaitumia? Si wanaituundia then wanaitumia iishe. Ikifika tena after that 30 years tutataka ku-upgrade tena. Ini ujinga gani hawa sawa wanatufanyisha? Ama tunalidiwa na watu wana akili ama ni sisi tunabeba ujinga? 30 years tukikaa hapo tukingojea. After that 30 years tutataka another upgrade. Na umesikia tena kwa hiyo deal, within that 30 years Kenya ifai kubuild another airport. Yeah. Hii ni mchezo. Hii gava inatubeba ufala. Yani everything this government touch is a mess. Everything ni mess. Kutoka saizi huyu mkora tena huyu wa polisi ndio huyo haendi koti. Mahali polisi wakitushika wanatupeleka koti yenye waiti. This is Kenya. Tuko na nchi kweli hapa. Manze, we have to rise. Because hii imeenda sana. Imepita hadi limit. Hata kama wasemi mafala bani na kutanga extend yenye. Na kunanga kitu mbaya by the way kama mafala waungani. Hao wenye wanatuona sisi ni wajinga. Tukishikana hivi ujinga yetu ni ile yenye unstoppable. We have to rise. Nao wazazi wao watoiba na hata nao wamelegea bana, inafaa waamke. Watoto wanakuambia, mnaambia aje watoto wajui mali wako? Au polisi wanafanya nini? Wase wenye waliandamana au wenye waliandamani wakati ya kuingia kwa parliament, walienda kuwatoa mpaka huko hivyo ndani. So walikuwa na adapt watu wakiwashikilia na huko hivyo ndani. Au walijulikana wako wapi, but watu hiyo wajui mali wako. Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you for your time, Kevin. And I'd like to say something. What you're talking about the airport, Adani Group has been allowed to take loans against assets up to 30% equity. I'm trying to get that, but I read it on this article. Yani, it can take inaweza chukua loans ikifika 30% ndo inakuwa inahesabiwa. This is the last. It's actually called Adani can use current assets as collateral and raise independent financing with any excess over a 30% debt equity ratio treated as debt. That is a fact that I want you guys also to let sink in as we're having this conversation. Chalo, talk to me. Chalo?
Hello. Yeah. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Yes. I'm following up the conversation. So all I can say is that we've been able to go to court and try and stop this thing. So right now we've been given conservatory orders to prevent the agreement from being pursued further until these guys give us full particulars of the entire agreement. They're supposed to give us all the details that are involved in the making of this agreement. And I wanted to say that let's just hold the faith that we'll definitely get justice, because this agreement isn't even in tandem with current economical trends, because there's no way we're going to give this foreign entity 30 years of our airport and not build a runway or any other airport until 2048. Do you know how far 2048 is? Like 2027, we're really struggling to get there, but 2048, man, it's really far. So we just wait and see how the court will deal with this issue. So right now, as we speak, the agreement has been stayed. It has been stayed by the court of Kenya. So those guys cannot proceed. They wanted to conclude this agreement by the end of this week. So we managed to kind of like hold them. Let me stop there. Do you have any question?
No, not currently, but I will get back to you if I have any or if I get any on the comment section.
Yeah. Before I leave, niko mahali tu na ngoja mtu, so I'm just listening in the conversation. So you guys need to know we had filed a matter today. We were given conservatory orders, and this whole agreement has been stayed. So we're just waiting for the other parties and to see whether they will react. So we wait until October, 8th of October, so we can see whether we will go forth. So for the time being, but I'm not saying that you guys rest. You guys need to keep banging on that beast. You need to keep banging on that beast. Somebody by the name of Frederick Douglass stated that the limits of a tyrant are as far as the people allow it. They are as far as people allow that tyrant to go. So you guys are not supposed to stop. You're supposed to continue banging on that beast as we, the legal practitioners, do our best on this other side of the law. Today you saw what happened with the acting IG, Inspector General Masengeli, and for the 7th time, he did not come to court, and Justice Mugambi had to step up. He had to step up that game. He had to step up that game, because if it was Murima J, hey, that guy will be under committee prison. He will be under the prison, not inside. He'll be under the prison. So we wait for sentencing on Friday. Right now, that guy, acting IG Masengeli, is an actual convict. Yes, he is a convict. He's a convict. Ni maabusu. So we're waiting for sentencing on Friday. So the scales of justice must balance, and the law is a double-edged sword. So it must cut both ways. So let me stop there. I hear you guys.
Thank you for that, Chalo. All right. The conversation today is on Stop Adani JKIA deal, and of course, I've just gotten to see that stay order that my guy here, Chalo, is talking about. The judiciary. Let me see the summary. Case number HCJRE 199 of 2024. The Law Society of Kenya and the Kenya Human Rights Commission of versus Kenya Aviation Workers Union and the Kenya Airport Authority and 5 others. Directions: the applications dated 9th September is hereby certified as urgent, and the same is admitted for hearing during the court recess. Prayer 2 is granted as prayed. The leave so granted shall operate as stay in line with prayer 3. The applicant shall file and serve the substantive application within 3 days. The respondents and the interested parties shall thereafter file and serve their respective responses in, if any, 5 days of service. So yes, the matter shall be mentioned on 8th of October, as you've heard, with a view to securing a judgment date. So yeah, let's see how far this one goes. I hope it works, because there's a lot of people in line for that. Yeah, Chalo, what are you saying?
I wanted to elaborate on what you guys were saying, what you were saying with regards to the prayers, so that the listeners can understand. So basically, among the prayers, we were praying that for a declaration that this PP initiative involving JKIA with the Adani Airport Holdings has violated basically the Constitution with regard to issues of Article 10. You know, the principles of the constitutions that are enshrined under Article 10 of the Constitution. We were also praying for another prayer that prohibiting, that is the Kenya Airports Authority, who are being, I know there's a hand in it, who are being given directions to pursue this agreement. So we were praying for an order prohibiting them from continuing with the proposal that was submitted on March 2024. And also, among another prayer that we were seeking was that we needed the court to declare that decision by the Kenya Airports Authority to do that agreement, that decision, we want that decision quashed. We want it to be declared illegal, nullity, basically. And another prayer is that we wanted a mandatory prayer, that is the Kenya Airports Authority to be directed to supply information with regard to how this whole thing came about, because they're hiding a lot of information. Because now, once those orders are granted, we'll be able to see how this thing unfolded. You can imagine these guys did, they approved this agreement before they complied with the law, that is Section 41 of the PPP, the Public-Private Partnerships Act, which provides that before commencing an evaluation of such a proposal, they were supposed to conduct due diligence and confirm whether Adani Group has been involved in scandals, fraud, bribery, whether Adani has been debarred by other countries, of which with the grapevine, you know, Australia banned Adani Group. Even India itself can't even stomach Adani Group. So these guys basically skipped the whole step that is required by law. So we want them to disclose how this thing came about. They give us the information. How the hell did they approve? What steps did they take to ascertain whether Adani Group was fit to carry out such an agreement? Also, among other things, maybe I'll be breaking it down slowly as the days goes by, if God gives us strength. But there's a lot of details that you guys need to know concerning on how in your prayers as we do this thing. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for that. Now, the man that has baka pigwe viboko kwa Abdunza, Jomaxia, what do you have to say on this issue? Daddy? Unajua mimi nikwambia, I don't like your insensitivity, bwana.
I appreciate the whips. Now I'm in line. Now, one thing I'll say is I'll start with the issue about the unfortunate loss of those students and the families who are still going through the grief and mourning situation. But it is hard for them at the moment. And this is painful. That's why for me, because I exactly understand the risk that is posed. The lack of how they've been pushed to that point of that boarding school seems to be the only option, because actually schools changed. They started, if you ask yourself in your district or your location, those schools which began as day schools, then slowly they started becoming boarding school, leaving no option for parents, because I saw that when I was growing up. Now, and the other thing is this, public schools became heavily defunded. So the people gravitated to boarding schools because they were well funded, they had extra teachers, and probably well resourced. But the thing is this, I don't know which day school has ever banned. Children always go home. So the question I would ask, knowing the trauma that children have gone through, even if that school is boarding dormitory is built within less than 3 months, would you take your child back there? Because some lessons have to be learned here. Hard truth questions have to be asked. And those who are also having their siblings in boarding schools, or even their children, the question is this: when you enrolled them, do you see how they stay? Because that's the other thing. When they are doing the gatekeeping, when they don't show you entirely everything, and also children, if they are away from you, they lose that connection to actually express themselves to you as a parent. So maybe those children could have spoken things which they are seeing happening in that school, but those parents are not there. Until 3 months are gone, term ishe, then you come back home, then you're gone, you go again. So me as a parent, and that's why I said, knowledge preserves the beholder. I've benefited from the knowledge I've gathered. That's why I'm passionately sharing this. That just know, when you take your child to a boarding school, it's like parking a car at your own risk. Utakuja, you pata, that car imetolewa tire, it's been vandalized, or it's stolen. Because that car, the same thing I'm saying here, that kid, you did not, when they left in the morning, you knew how they were. They come in the evening and they say, oh, today, this is how my day was, you know how they are. Now, how many parents have been called just because of bullying and everything, just to be told that their kid passed away? Case closed. No further investigation, no even clear coroner's case or whatever. These things are not new. So this is where actually the power belongs to the people. You as a parent, people can push a motion of no confidence to the Department of Education that it is not fit for children to continue going to school. It is actually not worth it. Because those parents are actually regretting now. They are even wondering, what was the point of me putting so much effort only for the child to succumb in such a situation? All their efforts are drained, and there is nothing worse like raising a child, then they die. You feel all your effort is gone. That's a painful thing. They did not even grow to actualize themselves. And some of those parents, one thing they'll go through psychologically is lack of purpose. Their purpose is gone entirely. Even though they were not parenting those children every day, their whole activity was centered towards providing, no matter how the situation is. Now depression kicks in, and mental health will kick in as time goes by. or even, and I don't mean to speculate a lot, suicide. Because until you find a community which will hold you, help you, because things happen. Even those who go to day schools, sometimes an accident happens and you don't come home. But that question of asking yourself, I could have done this. That distance of trying to reach there, what more could I do? Those questions, I pray and I'll keep them in my prayers every day for God to give them the peace of mind to go through this situation. Because now that's trauma which is going to scar their life for quite some time. Now, what I would ask for those who are still having the chance, do you want to be part of that statistics? Your child to be part of that statistics? Because this has been happening for years and years and years. And I keep saying, some of these leaders, they are not there for your interests. They are not going to bring their children to those schools. So how can you advocate for departments which your own children are not part of it? That's how it is. That's the truth people don't want to talk about. It's that uncomfortable. It is it's challenging because you don't know what to do next. Because if the child is there at home with you, in fact, the least you could do is now enjoy social life with them. Like when people go on holidays, now you start looking for another school. But there is a way. There is always a way. Every challenge comes with a solution. There is always a way. Things can change. But to continue living in that fear, unless I as a parent, I went there and sought a job as either cleaner or watchman, and I stay there. That's the only way I would probably feel. Feel like I can do something about it. Because how many schools have burned so far since that fire? The first school, Pipita. How many schools
Alafu
now?
nataka ujue kwamba Jomax anataka nikwambie kwamba you're really deviating from my topic of the day. My topic of the day is Adani deal. So
I'm heading
kindly,
to that. In fact, let me head to that
you're
now.
really, yes, just get to that point directly because in our show we have set topics.
This one is short now for me. There was a time I was traveling, and I had a challenge of when you exit the airplane, the sun was really hot. I was there, Atuoli was there, Anyang Nyong, and some other support personnel. Then they exited through the executive. They have their ramp is set up. Us, me and the other Wazungus who are there, a bus was called Sayo tumechomwa na jua. We're like, man, these guys, yani, they just go through executive exit. Us, we are chomekad by jua apo. And I was like, what is this? People are pissed. So, what I don't know, whether if this thing for Adani goes, I don't know whether those rules will change. Because it actually doesn't matter how much you pay. But those disparities because when I was in Dubai, these guys did not have that privilege. The rules are there for everyone. You're not given any executive exit or entrance. They were there. The only people who I saw is their behavior being, because they were a bit puny, saying, Mweshimiwa, they now start saying hi, almost kneeling. When they see the guys, I didn't give a fuck who these guys were. Because I fetch for myself. Then when they came to Kenya, those guys who were kneeling and saying Mheshimiwa, they didn't go through the executive entrance with them. They were left down there to board the bus, and we were packed like potatoes in there. So I was like, why are you kneeling to these guys saying, what? So I was like, what? People, now, if this thing for Adani goes, I hope they don't set those rules. Because actually, it doesn't matter how much you pay. Me, I would say, those rules are the most painful ones because you have paid for these services. Then these guys get executive entrance and exits. That's my take only.
All right. Thank you, Joe Maxia, for that. Last G, I was coming right to you, bwana, alafu una drop. Hii ni mambo gani? I wanted also to tell you this. The Godfather, alisema we come with the money. Tukuje na numbers. So I'm going to tell you another piece of numbers that we are supposed to be getting from JK. Yes, the government will assist Adani in applying for tax exemptions. Okay. Adani will pay an annual concession fee of $50 million to the government, payable quarterly in advance. The same amount JKIA has been paying annually. So what is the benefit if JKIA has also been paying the same amount? Naona Godfather anamuita akitoroka. DK kwenye gift. Mambo iko vulai. Yanakupata ni kama ni mimi naenda tuko sawa.
Inakaa ni mimi na yeye tuko sawa. Hawa watu wanajaribu kuwork overtime.
Kabisa ndo naona wamejituma, lakini usijali, we will still talk. Nilikuwa nawapatia ma facts hapa hivyo, asije kasema eti hatujui nini tunaongelea hapa
Manze. Lakini ndugu yetu mkuu anaitwa Ismail Luta is in the house. Mimi hata sidhani nafaa niseme kitu kingine. Si niruhusu ni welcome atuambie kitu.
hapo. Sawa.
Ndugu Ismail, habari yako?
Salama, vipi kaka?
Salama sana. Mimi kama sijakuona jioni kabla iishe, hiyo siku itaweza. So tafadhali tupe maoni yako.
Jambo la kwanza, mimi namshukuru Karima kwa kutuweka hai. Watu wengi wametamani kuwa hai siku ya leo, lakini kama unavyoelewa nchi yetu kuna majanga. Kuna mtu ameuliza ni shule ngapi zimechomeka kufikia sasa. Kufikia sasa shule zingine 2 zimeteketea. Lakini jambo lingine, sasa kuna mashaka na majanga mengi katika nchi. Sasa ukiamka uko hai, unashukuru. Kwa ufupi, lengo la hii mwaka ni tumalize mwaka tukiwa hai, serikali situmeze wala kutua wala kutuangamiza. Lakini jambo lingine, upande wa miundo msingi yetu, na leo tukiangazia mambo ya airport, ni kwamba koti imesitisha hiyo maneno mpaka kesi isikizwe, na hiyo ni dalili nzuri. Lakini pia jambo lingine, hii nchi pia tukilalamika na kumwomba Maulana atusaidie, atupatie uongozi mzuri, lazima sisi tujirudie na tujiulize, ili kwa kuaje mtu kama Ruto akawa rais? Katika nchi zingine mtu kama Ruto atakuwa katika jela akihudumikia miaka kadhaa kama si kifungo cha maisha. Ili kwa kuaje mpaka mtu kama huyu akajipata kwamba ni rais? Ina maana kwamba na si dikteta, aliingia katika njia ya kidemokrasia. Ina maana kwamba wananchi wenzangu, sisi lazima tujirudi na tujiulize priority zetu, matamanio yetu katika nchi hii ni yapi? Jambo lingine, mimi nashukuru kwamba tumefika katika sehemu hii. Maana miaka 5 iliyopita tulikuwa katika mashaka, lakini ni kama kwamba ile kiti haikuwa moto. Tangu mtu amke aanze kulalamika ni kwamba ile kiti aliyokalia imekuwa ni moto, haizi vumilia tena. Sasa mimi nashukuru kwamba tumefika katika level hizi ambazo kiti kimekuwa ni moto zaidi, na sasa imebidi tumeamka, tujiongelele, tujitetee. Na hii inamaanisha kwamba Tukiangalia katika siku za mustakbal, tuna mustakbal mzuri kwa maana mwananchi ameshagutuka, mama mboga ameshagutuka, bodaboda ameshagutuka, kwamba ile mambo ambayo alikuwa ameahidiwa yote imekuwa ni mambo ghushi na akili zake sasa zinafunguka. Sasa pia kiupande fulani ukiangalia kwamba wana Kenya sahii wanaongea mambo ya msingi, mambo ya airport yao na vipi wataiokoa, ni jambo nzuri. Miaka 10 hatukuwa na maongezi kama haya. Ilikuwa ni maongezi ya nani amemuoa nani, mwanamuziki mgani ametaliki mgani, ndio mambo ambayo yalikuwa yanashughulisha vijana. Lakini leo hivi vijana ikiongozwa na MC Pipita na hapo DK Gift, mnatuongoza kuna kishi masala ibuka, masala muhimu. Ni jambo nzuri sana. Hili jambo mimi kibinafsi inanipatia matumaini kwamba tuna mustakbal nzuri, tuna mustakbal wa kutuheshimisha kama nchi. Bila kuongezea mambo mengi na yeyuka huko nikiwawezeka. Ismail, shukran kwako kwenye studio.
Asante sana, asante sana. Hey, Ismail, lakini Ismail anafanyaga ni realize mwalimu wangu wa Kiswahili hako amenikosea, akaniambia mimi sijui Kiswahili. Huyu ndugu anafanyaga ni realize hiyo class nililala kabisa. Thank you very much Ismail. And once again, asanteni sana for everyone who's listening. I am sorry for dropping off earlier. I have some good stuff that is happening on my side here, and it seems that my enemies from the village do not want me to be set, but it shall be well. Wacha niende kwake. I see Oseo. Good evening, Oseo. How are you? Oseo, can you hear me?
So that I don't think.
Sidhani yuko. Wacha tujaribu Kim 001. Oseo ame unmute. I just saw him unmute.
Nimemtoa kwa mic. Na mimi nani kwa na kidole haraka sana. Also request the microphone. That was too fast. Hata mimi mwenyewe nimejishtuka. Yaani ume-unmute hivi kidogo, you are out of commission. Anyway, also if you can come back to the mic, we'll definitely get you to the mic. It was not personal. It was just from production side. Anyway, let's go to Kim then. Kim, ilikuwa ni Kim next, ndio? Then David.
Yes, Kim 001.
Okay.
Kim vipi?
Hello, niaje?
Salama sana.
I'm really hoping I'm audible because I am having issues with my network. So
You're very audible, please continue.
Sorry?
Tutakwambia. Please go on, you're very audible. In case we lose you, we'll let you know.
Sawa. First of all, nituomboleze wale watoto from Endarasha, that school, because really that is a different kind of evil. Mtu ambaye anaweza fikiria kuchoma watoto ambao wamelala, very innocent souls. We have no words, but we are also very, very annoyed on these politicians who went there for some cheap PR, some cheap political mileage. Akaenda kupeana maharagwe hapo na mchele to people who are grieving actually. I don't know how anybody could even sit down and even start to think of such an act as befitting for such a loss. But I'm beyond words. Also yesterday, there is this Ministry of Education, Higher Education also, dancing on the same graves of those kids, using them as a reason why they should be given 30 days to look at the new funding model. I don't know. I find these people immoral, a new kind of evil. I don't know what to say about such characters, but I hope we have fewer and fewer of those people. On this JKIA and Adani deal, I've listened carefully to a few speakers for quite some time, and there have been mixed sentiments, whereby we had one talking of we cannot run the airport well, and we need foreigners to help us in that arena. Also, making it clear that it is not Andani who is in the bad, but the deal, the type of deal that he is offered is what is wrong. So it should just be revised, give us favorable terms, and then that should fix it. And then in the same breath, I also had another speaker speak of the character of Andani, that family unit, the family business Andani, the type of conmanship they've been involved in, stock manipulation in Australia. I've heard somebody talk about the Andani himself, and I think we really need to differentiate between the deal, the raw deal that is on the table, and Andani the man, the company. This what I tend to ask myself around here. Suppose you live in a neighborhood where theft is rampant. So when you go to work, you're not really sure whether you really find your house in the same condition as you left it. Does it make it any safer having another person with your copy of keys, or does it make it riskier? This is what I'm driving at. We have an airport that is not working. We have the KQ entity, not really the airport itself, but the KQ that is a loss-making entity because it's by design. Does it become safer now that we have a foreigner holding the keys to that thing? Imagine all the evil that would happen in this world. We've tried our level best. I'm not really sure if it is the best we could do, but whatever we've tried as our best, it may not have sufficed, but we've at some point managed the entry of hard drugs into our country. It is still there, but to some level, we've curtailed the amount that are entering the country. We also have cases of children missing, leave alone the Indarasha children who cannot be accounted for at this point, which is very unfortunate. We have kids who get lost in Nairobi estates every now and then, and we keep having these posters, have you seen such and such a child? If you kindly see them, kindly call this number or report to the nearest police station. We've been having such cases. And if my mind serves me right, some are found, but most of those cases really go unexplained. With Andani holding the gates to our country, do you think that what would look like a child trafficking ring? Do you think it would cease to exist, or the operations will become rampant? Because with Andani, they've really proven that they are willing to do anything for their self-gain, their profits. They only care about their damn profits. If you have a ring here that is really willing to pay well, to use the airport at the wee hours under tight security and in a hidden way, don't you think Andani would be for such a deal? And especially for you to do in such a country like Kenya, because we all know that, yes, we have security officers, but they are only meant to look to deal with the poor population. Any rich person can always get away with anything. That is as per the situation right now. I'm not saying that is what should be happening, but unfortunately, that is what is happening in our country. Don't you think the same people really would see the profitability of being involved in such rings, organ trafficking and stuff, and then all of a sudden we have compounded problems that were existing in our society? Even if we were to swap these Andani deals and have favorable deals, remove all those requirements the contractual obligations to terminate his deal if it comes to such a point, do you think still, even under the most favorable conditions, Adani is the right man to even run an airport? I tend to think, really quoting the recent protests and how people came through to the injured comrades, we raised millions. Don't you think if it was a do or die situation, a country of at least 30 million adults, the population is about 54 million, at least we have around 30,000 or 33,000 adults. Don't you think we'd even be able to crowdfund for such a thing if it really came to that? So what we have before us, in my own opinion, really, is just a greedy, self-centered politician in Kenya, just using the Adani word or the Adani company to hide behind it, also have a foreign entity to avoid the scrutiny of the books, and then they can...
1 minute.
Sorry?
I'm saying 1 minute for you
I'm
to
landing.
clear your submission. All right.
I'm landing, kindly. What we have is really an entity hiding behind Adani, and then using the Adani company to ensure himself in case of termination of such deals, and then using putting very lucrative terms, even creating an atmosphere, business atmosphere actually, that is not even present to the businesses in the country at this moment. It's evil, both the deals and Adani. I think we should not be anywhere near such a thing. I yield.
Asante, Kim 001. And of course, you can always stay with us on the speaker panel if you'd like to share some more sentiments on the same topic as we continue. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Home Run with PP 4 to 9 p.m. Tunashukuru sana kwa kila mtu ambaye ako tuned in. I'd just like to shout out a few people who are down here. I see Carlton, namwona Bryson Mugangasia. Asante sana for tuning in. Namwona Boniface Onduso, Farid, namwona Jemima, namwona Dennis, let's see, Dennis Mkost, Ochani, asante sana kwa kuwa hapa. Alejandro na kushukuru. Frederick, Maria Mugo, Shitamu, anaitwa Accessmo. That's one name that always gets me. Bensology, Lingugi, Rob, and many others. Asante sana for being here with us. Tunakushukuru for listening in. I know there's some of the people had admitted into the speaker panel before, but I'd like to hear one of the ladies as we go by. So let me first jump the queue all the way to Pan-African 254. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Hi, how are you?
Very fine, yourself?
Yes, very fine, thank you. Hi, Peter, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good, fantastic. Okay, so I've just got a question. I'm not sure if this question has been answered. Because last week I was listening to Spice FM, and there was a guy there called Mos Ndiema, who's the SG of Kenya Aviation. And he was talking about, Adani deal and everything. And one thing that came to mind was, what he spoke about was the profits that actually KAA has been making. They've been making 25 billion profits. So in 2021, 2023, they made 25 billion, okay, collected profits. Now, my question is, how do you sell a company that's actually making profits? You go into an agreement with somebody who is actually making a loss. So how do you go into an agreement when you're actually making profit? And it's, they're not making losses. Yes, JKIA is KAA is different from the loss-making airplane KQ. That's different. But we're talking about JKIA and Kenya Airports Authority. These guys have been making profits. The other question that I wanted to ask, I don't know if anybody knows about this, is if they've actually been given the deal, the the actual deal. We've got the feasibility studies that have been circulated online, but I wanted to know the actual deal that Adani has made with the government or with KAA. Because these guys, Adani, don't forget, they're coming to Kenya for 30 years, okay? They made concession with Tanzania at the moment, and they'll be operating for 30 years as well in the container terminal, Terminal 2 in Dar es Salaam. They're coming for 30 years in Kenya. 30 years si kitu kidogo, 30 years is a lifetime, okay? If you think about it, 30 years is pretty long. And that's how that's how long they're gonna be coming to Kenya. And then another thing that struck me was why are they deferring to make the terminal? I thought the terminal was the most important. Was more important at the moment, because right now I'm seeing that they're going to make the runway an extra runway in 2029. I mean, where's the priority here? The priority for them is to make hotels and restaurants. Is that really the priority? Anyway, Adani, we know that JKIA needs an upgrade. Fact, okay. But is Adani the right people to do it? Kibaki made there was an agreement that they had made. I can't remember which country it was, but there was a signed agreement for them to run a greenway runway or something like that. I can't remember quite well. Sorry about that. But there was something that was in the pipeline. Then came Uhuru and Ruto, and they threw it down the line. Things have been happening under the waters, and they just want to create mayhem so that they can actually, be corrupt. Be corrupt and take, steal money from Kenyans, and this is not right. So, I don't know if those questions have been answered. I don't know if there's anybody who knows anything about that. I just wanted to know about that. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Asante sana, Pan African. And anyone who'd like to pick up on some of those questions shared by her, please feel free to come onto the mic, or if you're on the speaker panel, feel free to raise your hand. We'll give you a chance to also respond to that. Bona David, good evening.
Hey, evening DK, evening Pipita. Pleasure as always to join in these discussions tukijaribu kukomboa nchi. Now, I like the fact that you spoke earlier, and I believe Godfather also, about Tukainama facts. So we'll try and, disseminate some facts around here. Venye Pan-Africa amesema, we need an upgrade on JKIA. Some of us use that airport frequently, and it's seen better days. We all agree, I believe, we all agree, given that it's the gateway to Kenya by air, we need upgrade on that airport. But at what cost? I think that's the contention here. At what cost? Somebody's mentioning about security. There's drugs, there's human trafficking, and there's all sorts. However, we need to look at this in context. I personally do not believe that Adani is the best group to do this for various reasons. The scandals in Australia, the scandals in Mauritius, the scandals in Goa, the scandals in India itself. The Indian citizens, Indian company, but even in India, it's India themselves do not want anything to do with, with their deals. So that in itself, I mean, if somebody was making inquiries before they even engaged Adani, that in itself should have been a red flag. They should have already, searched this company up and known that, whatever we're going for here is probably not, for the good of our country, or at least for the good of the citizens of the country, if at all, they were to be selfless. Now, if we're looking at the cost that is being spent, as we are comparing, there's in the region, there's comparison. So we have the new Kigali airport, which is ongoing. I think it's a partnership with Qatar. Then we have Dar es Salaam, and then we have Bole Airport in Ethiopia. Now, Rwanda, with a lower passenger volume through the airport, I think at the moment they're talking of 600 1,000, and they're hoping with the new airport, they'll be going to about 1.4 to 1.6 million. They are spending 700 million USD to build that airport. 700 million USD. That's context, Now, if we are to look at Bole Airport, so that's Bole Airport in Addis Ababa. They spent, that's completed, I think it was done by the Chinese. That was done at a cost of $5 billion with a passenger volume approximated of about 22 to 24 million passengers. In comparison, JKIA at the moment is handling about 11 million passengers. Now, with the new Adani initiative, I don't know the exact figures, but given that they're talking of an additional runway in 2029, ultimately, you're looking at, the Vision 2030 will probably be reaching 15 million when, for the better part of the last 40 years, JKIA has been the hub for Eastern Africa. And we're talking of, from Ethiopia going all the way to Zim. Zim had a choice. Some of them could use South Africa, but majority of them would come and, do their transit through Kenya. If we go to Dar es Salaam, the cost is 329 million USD. 329 million USD. Again, comparison. So if you're looking at what we are trying to give away, in terms of what we're going to pay Adani, being 247 billion USD, 247 billion shillings. And already we have a airport, already we have the infrastructure, already we have land, already we have the passenger volumes. We are being shortchanged. I mean, this is going to be another SGR project in the making. Forget about those other, collateral events that will happen, that will bring us down, from human trafficking, drug trafficking, with all innocence. Kibaki was the president and JKIA became a hub, and if somebody's saying that, we've managed to curtail that, actually we haven't. It's the FBI and Interpol that have actually helped a lot on that. The Kenya security team have done zero. If they had their way, it would probably be triple what Kibaki was doing at that time. So this is all credit to the US Embassy and the FBI. Not that I'm in support of them meddling, but we have to, give credit where it's due. The Kenyan Security Agency has done zero. So let us not even try and pride ourselves that our security has, helped to do this. Now, if you go back to airport ownership, Heathrow Airport is not owned by the United Kingdom government. It's not owned by His Majesty's government. Heathrow is owned by a consortium which is Spanish. Gatwick Airport, the second busiest airport within London, is owned by a Nigerian, and they're working fine. There's no issues of trafficking. There's no issues of drug. There's no issues of mismanagement. So we have no issues with the airport being built or being upgraded by an outsider. All we are saying is the outsider in question, in this instance, we have enough reason not to want them to engage. We have enough reasons to doubt, the ethics in what they do. If we look across the world, there's airports that have come up, that are private ventures, and they've done super well. Somebody's mentioning Kenya Airways. I think we need to make a differentiation there. Kenya Airways is an airline. It's got nothing to do with the KAA. Kenya Airports Authority and Kenya Airways, those are two distinct, different government parastatals. I mean, Kenya Airways being, a private company that they're still kind of clutching onto their 23% of shares. But the success of the other should, in essence, spur the other one to come up. However, we've had loss-making after loss-making every year on Kenya Airways. But KAA in itself, with the infrastructure that it has that is aging, or at least it's already aged, are still really fighting, they're fighting well. They're fighting above even our neighbors, But we need to be very prudent in who we engage. There was a PP deal that was done. I think, again, that was under Kibaki towards Uhuru's time, and Kenya Airways was to take that up. But because Kenya Airways could not pay a bribe, they were not given this deal. They offered to do exactly what Adani is trying to do now. But that deal was scattered because Kenya Airways couldn't pay a bribe. an outsider is more easier to pay a bribe than a national company. I mean, a parastatal was coming up and saying, let us take this, the same way British Airways is proud of Heathrow or Gatwick, let us do the same. Air France is proud of Charles de Gaulle Airport, let us do the same. But because of corruption, Kenya Airways was kicked out. So again, if we are talking of facts, yes, let us acknowledge that we need an upgrade, but Adani is not the right team. That's all for now.
Asante sana, David. Thank you very much. I'll go first to Nothing before we head down to Alejandro. Nothing, I'll give you a few minutes to maybe say something.
Thank you, DK. I appreciate your time. David has touched on a few things I wanted to highlight, but a bit of correction. The new airport being developed in Ethiopia is not Bole. Bole is their old airport that was constructed at a cost of about $6 billion. And I don't think we should be contrasting ourselves with Bole. Bole is big, yes, but there's no business. If you have transited through Bole, you realize it is a very frustrating airport for a passenger. And there are reasons to that. And I can't blame them, because for them, the reason why Bole has seen very minimal growth is because there are restrictions on how much money you can enter Ethiopia with. And that way, most of passengers transit through Bole, but not necessarily take time to do anything at the airport. It's actually, if you've transited through Bole, it feels like you're caged in. At the time, I think you couldn't go in with more than $100. So how many passengers will go in? So before going to Addis, we had to look at what are the restrictions. If you've been to Ethiopia, you notice the cars they even use there are as old as maybe, okay, I don't know how cars were in the 70s and 60s in Kenya, or probably even in the 1950s. For them as a country, they are determined they are going to develop everything from within. So if you find modern vehicles, the people pay so much in terms of taxes to have that. So a normal daily car is a car actually they lock with a padlock. They're so dilapidated. I think they even paint with wall paint, and not even the modern wall paint. But because these people are determined, actually right now they're already developing a car plant with collaboration with Chinese. So for them, they said they're going to develop at their pace, but they're never going to allow their country to be a consumer economy. If you've been to Addis, the way in Kenya, every time you take their supermarkets, for them, the supermarket is tiny, and it may be the only one. Like in Addis, I think I found one. So they're determined, first of all, to eat their food. They're determined to grow anything they want in their country. It has to be locally done. So that is the advantage. And they're building a different airport. And I think at the time we went to about 3, but the others were airstrips. Now, on this JKIA issue, there's so many angles to it. Yes, we need to develop JKIA. Like David asked, at what cost? Because I'm not sure we don't have that much traffic to warrant construction of a new runway, and that's the reason why it's not on their priority list. The number of hotels already at JKIA, their accommodation capacity is not enough for people to want, and even proximity to the city. It does not make building hotels inside the airport a priority. We need to probably build up on the infrastructure, but in their case, they're saying that they will not modernize it, and they are prohibiting Kenyan government to ever build another airport that could compete with JKIA. If JKIA, whatever this deal wants to do with JKIA is the real deal, how comes they do not want the government to ever build an infrastructure that will compete with JKIA? The reason why Ethiopia is building a new airport, they bought so many aircrafts. In fact, Boeing, is it 777? It's called African First by Boeing Company because they bought so many of those aircraft. And that is, and also it's not, if you compare the cost to other airlines, it is much cheaper to fly ET, even to go to South Africa, as opposed to fly directly to OR Tambo through South African Airways. And the cost is maybe the difference is almost 30,000. So what decision would you make to have a stopover at Bole and connect, and it's a bigger aircraft altogether? So there's no sincerity in terms of the Adani deal, because what they need to do can be done by local contractors. If you can look at the infrastructure already in the country, done by local contractors. Simply, they're telling us Kenya as a country has no capacity to develop itself. Because if the message is that in 2024, as a country, we have capacity to develop, they would not be leaning more on an entity. Because when it comes to foreign entity, there's leakage. Leakage is money made in a country that does not end up circulating in a country and is exported to a different country. That way, our GDP drops. So to protect the economic growth of the country, we have to shield JKIA from changing hands. Somebody said that, nothing can happen to JKIA if it's left in the hands of Kenya. No, there are rules, there are international rules regulating airports. So already we are at international standard, even though we are working with old infrastructure. So it's not true. There are people who are propagating information that's not true. So let's be open to learn, let's be open to correction. And at the bottom of it, the goal is to protect the airport for the good of the country, because border security starts with your entry point. Already we don't have enough control on our borders. That's why we end up with attacks once in a while. But now to give away an airport that has proximity to the city, actually the main city in a country, and you give it away to a foreigner, you're basically giving away your sovereignty. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 5 minutes past the top of the hour. Before I bring in the next speaker, Pipi, please give us a jingle.
Social conversations, engaging topics on your phone anywhere. This is Home Run with Pipi.
Asante sana for everyone who's been listening in. We want to appreciate you as we jump into the last hour of the show. I'll be bringing in two more speakers that are here. Anthony, good evening.
Before you go there, DK, I just wanted to say something. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Home Run with PP. It comes to you each and every weekday from 4 p.m. all the way to 9 p.m. East African time. And today I want you to support me in a very simple way, in two ways. Our show comes to you every day without fail. Kutoka saa 10 mpaka saa 3. We make sure that we are live, me and DK and the team as well. To make sure that you have something to talk about. So today, last week, we launched our YouTube channel, HRWP, Home Run with PP. And I have pinned that link on my X account. Hapo hivi kwenye link na pia kwenye Jumbotron ya show. Ladies and gentlemen, today you can support me in two ways. You can support me by paying the internet in the studio by the tip jar 0721948229, or you can simply do the easiest, which is the cheapest, by just clicking on that link of our YouTube channel and hitting the subscribe button. Currently, we are about to hit 160 subscribers. If we can get to 200 subscribers, I would really appreciate. If you're already subscribed, make sure you retweet that tweet so that we can get to many more people to see it. So thank you so much for that. And I want to just throw the mic back again to Anthony.
Thank you, Pepe. Congratulations on your YouTube channel. I know it's really a step in the right direction. Now, about the topic, today's topic, about the takeover by Adani Group. Now, For the entire weekend, I've been looking at a document of what Adani actually submitted to Kenyan government in terms of where JKIA is right now and where they intend to take JKIA. And the question that arises is, if you look at an article that was done by a guy called Mohammed Hersi, he's in the tourism sector. He asked a very simple question. Ethiopia are building a new airport, not renovating the current airport. They're building an entirely new airport. Rwanda is building a way superior airport and they're partnering up with the Emirates. Now, the question that comes when it comes to Kenya is very simple. Why didn't we ask Adani to build a new airport? Not renovate the existing one. We say we can renovate this, but build a new one so that after 30 years, because during that span of that years, Kenya cannot build or renovate in airport. So why didn't we say build a new airport and we give him the grounds to do that? So that after 30 years, we have two major airports. That will make us competitive now. That is what Ethiopia has done. Ethiopia said to their strategic investor, we want you to build a new airport. The old one, we shall refurbish it, we shall do everything to it, build a new airport. Now, the money they will receive from that deal is what they will use to do any renovations they will need to do on their old airport. So after that, the period they have agreed, Ethiopia will have two major airports. You see, what the argument is in this entire case, that Ethiopia and Rwanda are catching up very quickly. Don't forget, Rwanda is the size of Nairobi. Yet they are building an airport that scares Kenyans. So why didn't we say we want to be ahead or at par with Ethiopia? Because if Ethiopia have negotiated for a new airport, then we should have done the same. Now, if you open that deal up, Kenyans are only looking at Adani, but they are not seeing that there's going to be money coming in for insurance. So someone is going to insure JKIA afresh. The taxi services you see at JKIA, all those will be redone afresh. Forex will be done afresh. New tendering for duty-free shops will be done afresh. So there's potential. A few Kenyans will make an astonishing amount of money. And that's why Kenyans are saying, in a very simple way, that there's a lot of secrecy in this deal. And if it was open, if it was done in an open manner, I can assure you guys, all this acrimony you hear about Adani would not be there. In fact, if we say it, okay, Adani build a new airport, we shall stick with JKIA. Then Adani will give Kenyans the plans they have. You get, tunaona hii airport tunajengewa itakaa hivi. When you talk about a modern airport, it will look like this. So no one knows how the new airport the renovations will look like. No one understands the inner workings of the structure in terms of how many employees in JKIA will be retained. If they are to be fired, what is the criteria? Is Adani going to come in with people from India because he can say, to run the airport in an optimum way, I will need employees who have experience. So I can only bring in the staff I have to train your staff. So that's a scenario Kenyans are looking at. But the good thing is, there was a time I hosted a space at 8. It's called Point Blank with Tony Gashoka. It's on Wednesdays. And one of the things we agreed on that space was we do a legal document, which will be submitted to the Senate. And Richard Onyonka has tweeted actually that he received the document. Now, this week we were supposed to go to court, but I see LSK and Kenya Human Rights have already gone to court and they have gotten some orders to stop that. Now, what we can do is attach our memorandum to that same order. And people, what I've learned in these last 2 weeks is that sometimes you can fight a system from inside using law. And if you fight it with facts, you come and lay out hard facts. You say due diligence was not followed, and this is how we can prove due diligence was not followed. That the system itself can check itself, or we can delay the process. I don't want to diverge much because I hear when a matter is in court, there's something called, is it jurisprudence or something? But I'm happy that I think this week we might attach our memorandum to theirs, and we see whether we can stop this or renegotiate the deal. Because I do know for a fact that Kenya cannot bail out of that deal. I think the Kenyan government imeenda ndani sana, but they can renegotiate it out of public interest and get a much better deal.
Asante, Anthony. Thank you very much. Psychosins, good evening. Psycho, do you hear me? It feels weird to have to call you only by that first name or even the second.
If you have been around him, then you know very well his timeline is just exactly that. he was one of those controversial and controversial people. Sometimes, and one thing about hosting spaces is sometimes you have to have people who you do not really agree with. You get, and you just have to sit there and listen to them. Not necessarily that you're going to change about anything, but yeah, I guess that is something that you need to know. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. As a newbie on spaces, I'm beginning to start to learn that because I've been across different spaces and I find myself having to speak to people that I am completely having a different opinion with, almost getting emotional to it. But then I remember it's the whole point of hosting space. You need to be open to hearing both an opinion that you're with and an opinion that you're against. It's the biggest principle that you can learn on this area. I see he left, Psychosynth left, but please feel free to request a mic one more time. Come back and talk to us. In the meantime, I will go to I am Thomas. Good evening. I'm Thomas. Can you hear me? That is at Moringa.
Moringa is unmuted, but I can't hear him. Moringa, are you there? Looks like you're about to take him a bit to the distance. Yes?
I think I had him for a second.
Yeah, that is why I almost, my finger was on the remove. Yeah?
Peter, can you hear
Anthony, Thomas, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. Talk to me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this space. Actually, it has come up to the right time. But just I'll just take maybe a minute or two. I think we've been talking about the whole Adani thing for the last, I think, 2 months, 3 months. And for me, I feel like we are still giving these guys a very much ample time to actually reorganize, organize, and do all that thing, or do their own stuff. I feel like we should just go back to the street. I think our strength is on the street right now because most of those changes which took place in the last 3 months is because people took to the streets and demanded those things from the street. So if we reorganize ourselves right now, because right now we're saying that, okay, Kenya Human Rights Commission and LSK, they've gone to court, they'll be given all that stuff. But the way this government actually behaves, it's behaving in a way that they're actually pushing away the third arm of the government, that's the judiciary. You see, Masengeli has been given almost like four more times to actually appear in court. But what has he done? Anadharau court seriously. So I think our power is actually coming together and go and occupy that JKIA. That's the only thing. That's the only thing itashtua watu. Otherwise, we've been having, like, for the last 2 weeks, we've been having a lot of spaces around JKIA and everything, and everyone knows about the facts and everything. I think that right now we just have to reorganize and go to the streets and go and actually occupy that particular space physically. We go, tunaamsha kila mtu, mama mboga, mzee mtaani, everyone, because right now people know about this thing. It's been on the mainstream media for the last 1 month. So people know about the Adani deal. They know it's a shoddy deal. They know that this thing won't even work, because what's going to happen? probably cases of racism will start arising at that particular airport. Not racism against even Kenyans alone, but racism against even other countries. How will that portray to our hospitality as a country? So these are the things which we have to talk about. These are things which you have to address, and I think it's time. We should just stop talking and just start acting. Yeah, the lawyers, LSK has acted on their side. I think the Senate is ready to actually take over some of the petitions. But I think generally as Kenyans, I think we should just take a day or two and occupy that airport completely. No one comes in, no one goes out completely. And I think at that particular point things will change, because we occupied the parliament. Things changed. So what walifutwa? Yeah, yeah. We've occupied Nairobi CBD. Things changed at the end of the day. So the government has a way to actually delay some of these things. If we go to the court and say that we're having conversation, we're having dialogue, we have a sitting, the only thing is we mobilize communities, we mobilize young people, we mobilize Gen Z and Millennium and Gen Zote. Yeah, we just occupy that airport until those guys are out of that particular space. Because right now I see the opportunity whereby if the KIA staff can actually, they are actually demonstrating on their own, why don't we support them? Yeah, why don't we just join them in the well, just one day to amke tunasema now we are joining you guys. Almost maybe 100,000 people are joining KA staff. Yeah, things won't be the same again. People won't be talking about, because that's what happened in Australia. That's what happened in is it Bangladesh or Pakistan? That's what happened. People went to the street.
What happened in Australia?
Yeah. So I think right now we should start strategizing on how we can occupy JKIA completely. We shut down everything. If we shut down everything, then watashuka, then people reconsidered about the whole deal. People actually maybe take away Adani out of Kenya. So thank you. That's my input.
Sorry to interrupt. What were you saying about Australia in regards to what you were saying?
I am
I'm telling-
Maringa, unauliza swali. What happened
Sorry?
in Australia? What happening there in Australia?
Oh, the dude just said something about it referring to Australia. So I was like, oh, what happened in Australia? I live in Australia. I was just wondering what he was talking about.
I think in 2017, I've seen on several news outlets. In 2017, Adani was to be given a consortium of airports within Australia, and I think there were some shoddy deals which were actually ongoing. And actually, I think there's the parliament within Australia actually did their own back research and actually identify that Adani is not fit to handle such infrastructure and maybe handle such kind of deals. And also, I think after that particular issue, as they were forcing themselves in, then the citizen caught wind of that issue, and actually that's how it came to be. So they were actually chased away from Australia.
Is that the case, Faro?
I'm sorry, I didn't. I'm sorry, I really didn't understand what you said before. I apologize. I'm not sure if it's me, but
Okay. Okay, so let's get Anthony first, then we'll get back to you, Faro. Anthony.
Yeah, you see, I think one of the things we need to learn about in this movement is how to read, how to move forward and read while studying and taking lessons. Now, you see, when we went to the streets and we wanted the CSS fired, imagine if we went to the street and said we want the CSS fired, and when they were fired, during that period, we went to court, we go to court and say, as we are waiting for the new CSS, we get the judges, the court to pass that anyone with an ongoing or pending case should not be appointed. You see, we went, he fired people, then returned the same people, like half of them. And the other half that was not returned are either being given parastatal jobs or being made ambassadors. So we really need to, Ruto is learning us. This government is learning us. We also need to take time and learn them. Because if we don't learn them, he has mastered that. Do something for 2 days, these people will come down, then return the same thing you are taken away, return it on the table. And he has mastered the art of, when you want to counter a big fire, you start many small fires. That is one thing this government has really mastered. Anytime there's a major issue, guys want to rally around. What this government does, it goes and starts many small issues so that we get distracted and forget the major issue. So we really need to be learning their tricks because they are learning us at a very fast rate. You can see when Morara started going to the streets, the president constituted an entire office headed by this guy, Itumbi. Their work will be simply to counter everything Morara does. And they have started by saying everything Morara has been posting was started when Uhuru was president, not Ruto. And you see now, it becomes an entire wash thing.
Okay. Pharaoh, I'll go straight on to Pharaoh. And Anthony, if you're there, I will pose a question to you later if you do not mind after Pharaoh. There's a question I wanted to pose to you. Pharaoh, please go on. Oh, I think we just
Nikama
lost
amepotea bahati mbaya. I don't know what happened there. Pharaoh, if you can get us request the microphone again. I see Olympian Asbel Kiprop is becoming our common listener now. You can hear me, DK?
Yes, I can hear you. If you could allow me just before you go, and I'm sorry for turning this to a podcast, I wanted to ask Anthony a question on something he mentioned before, or like pose something. Anthony, earlier when you were speaking, there was a part where you mentioned on some of the things you saw over the weekend when you were reading through the Adani deal that has to do with maybe all the other things that are going to be started afresh within the airport, whether it is the services and every other thing. You also mentioned how some of it could be of quote unquote lucrative benefit to some Kenyans, right? So I wanted to pose two questions to you. If you could answer them maybe in a minute so we go to the rest. The first one is, in your own understanding, hypothetically speaking, do you believe that if there was if we are at the juncture where this Adani thing is going to happen, whether it has the goodwill of the people or not, hypothetically speaking, do you believe that if there was more transparency in the information, in some of the details that you have talked about, whether it is what exactly is being put on the table by the government or what it is that is going to be done afresh and all of that, as you said, do you think Kenyans will be more receptive to it? That is the first question. And the second, do you also believe that the leaving out of some of that information, for example, there would be new tenders that would be given to different people for the different services that would be in the airport? Do you think that some of that is also being held off so it can be more benefit to particular persons in the political scene who are involved in one way or the other, either getting the tenders themselves or getting the tenders and the deals to people that they know?
You've asked two very good questions. If the deal was transparent from the onset, I do agree Kenyans would have been receptive because they would have felt involved. And that's the reason Kenyans are saying, if we look at the numbers, if we look at the amount you're talking about, other countries are getting a totally new airport. Now, for the same number, us, we are getting a renovation. Okay? So if Kenyans felt involved and there was transparency, the discussion would have been broader. Don't forget, this is a PIP, meaning Adani brought the proposal to us and we simply agreed to it. We did not ask him, but our neighbor Ethiopia, for almost the same amount, is building an entire new airport. Rwanda, Nairobi County collects more money than Rwanda. And Rwanda, for a slightly small amount, are building an even more modern airport. Why can't we get a better deal? So I think if there was more transparency, very true, would have gotten a way better deal because Kenyans would have said what they want. To your second question, you asked, are there people who are going to make money? Yes. You see, airports are like a microeconomy. There's forex trade in there. So in that, if you read through the document, Adani gets the right to decide the exchange rate inside the airport. So anyone coming in with your dollars, most foreigners don't go out to Isili like we do or go to the bank. No, they change their dollars inside the airport, their pounds, their yens, everything inside the airport. So Adani would be benefiting from forex. Adani will be benefiting from airport transfers. He has 30 acres to build hotels, meaning the hotels you see near JKIA will be out of business because he's going to build almost an entire mini town inside the 30 acres where if you are late, then Adani will take you to his hotel and you sleep there. Previously, it used to be if you're late, the hotels around the airport would benefit, or if there's a consolation, because the hotels would take you to the hotels, the airline would take you to the hotels and they would pay. So Adani is saying, in case there's a consolation, I also get to benefit because he's going to build an entire town in there. So are there people going to make money with these deal, Kenyans? Yes. Let's start by saying, for any company to be registered in Kenya, they must be a local shareholder. That's a Kenyan who we do not know who he is. And we shall never know because the LLC is registered in Abu Dhabi. Now, there's going to be a renegotiation of all deals inside JKIA, from the hotels to the taxi business, cargo handling, just all the businesses that go in there, from the coffee chains, everything you see there, it will be renegotiated afresh. Before, you couldn't come in. In fact, if anyone has ever tried to take a taxi inside the airport, they will tell you can't. That deal was locked the day JKIA was built. So with Adani coming in, all those deals now become open again. And obviously, it's people in the political class who will be benefiting the most in all of this. And that's the reason it's so secretive. Because the more you open it up, the more you give Kenyans a chance to participate in tendering and bidding for those slots.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Anthony. I see the one and only Marabu Stocks is back online, and Kim 001 has the hand in the air. Pharaoh, what did you want to say before the mic dropped?
I only asked when he referred to Australia, and I said, "Oh, what were you talking about?" I realize I've dropped into a conversation which I know nothing about, so I'm researching Adani and JKIA. To be honest, I'm sorry, I just kind of jumped in, and yeah, I'm just researching it now. I think it sounds like there's a bunch of political shit going on right now, in your country, and I'm not quite sure. It sounds like, well, Adani was someone, I don't know, the word Adani, there was Adani was someone who did a lot of mining and shit over in Australia and kind of fucked up a lot of shit. No, my question before was the guy referred to Australia, and I said, "Oh, what was that?" That was all. So sorry if I interrupted.
All right. Thank you, Pharaoh. No, it's okay. It's okay. You know, home run in PP is worldwide. So that is all. Sometimes we bump into people who don't understand what is going on, but that is how we educate the world on our plight as well.
Yeah.
I see Kim 001 is in the building. Kim, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, sure.
Mm.
I think I wanted actually to direct a question to Anthony about us running to the courts after the protest and whatever is looked like a dissolution of the cabinet. If I remember well, the exact words our president used to dismiss that cabinet was not dismiss, it was actually suspend. Don't you think our kangaroo courts around here would argue around that word just to justify why some were fit to come back to office? Because according to the law, if you are dismissed from cabinet, you are really ineligible to hold any public office.
Yeah, sure. Was that a question or was it a statement?
I really needed I really needed Anthony to show us the efficacy of running to courts, because from my own point of view, really, it would have made no difference at all.
I get you. And you used it so well. You said he used suspend. He used the law. He used a word that is acceptable to law. And that's what I'm saying. We need to be very good because law is applied using, people say the wording, the full stops, and the commas. So when the president saw us react, he very well knew what he was doing when he chose the words he chose. He knew we couldn't go around. But if we face the challenges we have today, being more strategic and having a multifaceted approach, you ask yourself what you want to achieve. How do we make sure we have this thing locked from all directions? So when the president talks, you say, hold on. Don't use that word. Say you have fired or you have dismissed. You get? So that he doesn't play around with you. People say it's called Bill Clintoning with words. You play around with words so that people react very quickly, but you have them in your pocket. And that's what I keep on saying. We need to deal with this government tactfully. We need to be more tactical because all through they are playing a tactical game. And I hope I don't get into trouble for this, but we are playing an emotional game. So once we separate emotion and being tactical, then we shall start winning.
Anthony, before you go, if you can hear me.
I hear you.
Yeah, in the comment section of the home run, I did attach a very small snip of an article that I found online. I was really trying to put numbers to statements so that we can try justify what is this Adani is getting a 240 million deal, billion, 247 actually, billion shillings deal to do at our airports. I was actually trying to look at the very, very major components. It's not the whole thing, but just a small part of it. If you can see, if you can try think of what would constitute a new runway, maybe you'd get a new terminal, a runway, maybe an extra lounge here and there, and maybe extend the existing buildings. Just look at the numbers given there for buildings. Also check at the value of the most expensive terminal we have, that is the terminal 1A. Do you think that 247 really is going to renovate buildings of such value?
Kim,
really?
Kim, like I said, maybe you didn't hear me. I said for the cost Adani is talking about, we should be having a new airport, not renovating runways and extending things. Should build a totally new airport. New hotels, new runways, new berths, new cargos, new. That is what Rwanda is doing. Rwanda is getting a new airport, not renovating. Ethiopia is getting a new airport, not renovating. So even to me,
You know, the craziest part is, Anto, the craziest part here is, eti kwa hii ni kama sasa ni kama tumeolewa. Unajua, when you take a woman is when you tell her, I don't want you to have a man during this period, or as a lady you're there, you're telling your man, I don't want you to have any other woman during this period. That is what they're telling us. They want to build the airport. Actually, they're building taxiways. Alafu ndo waende waweke place. So meaning wanataka tu hizo ndege ziwe zinaenda karibu na hoteli zao. Alafu sasa watu wakuwa wanaenda kwa hoteli zao. And of course, they have a subsidiary in Kenya. Meaning we cannot even benefit directly. So yeah, I get you. Back to you, Anthony, and then I'll go to Diamond DK who has just joined us. This is Home Run, ladies and gentlemen.
Sure, PP. What you're saying makes a lot of sense. You know, I've taken time to break down the numbers, which I'll talk about on this piece. Kenya, Adani is going to make, in those 30 years, Adani is going to have a total return on investment. Kenya is not even going to smell $1 billion. You know, Adani is going to, it's a bad deal, no matter how you look at it. It's just a bad deal. And we don't need to be economists to know that. You know, if you look at the numbers, it's just a bad deal.
Kuna hiyo article nitashare, but let me hear first from Diamonds. Diamonds, how are you doing? It's been a minute, bro.
Titi, I'm well. Yeah, it's been a minute. I hope you can hear me.
Nakusikia vizuri sana, tuendelee.
You know, there is no deal that makes me sick like this one. Like, I feel sick. When I come to Twitter these days, I look at what's happening around this Adani deal, and I basically feel sick. I feel sick because, first of all, we have a government that will not listen to us. I don't know how we'll stop it. It's almost impossible. Oh, that's the problem. That's the first big problem. Going to the streets is easy to say it on Twitter, but the thing is, how easy is it to actually mobilize people to go to the streets? University students today were mobilizing to go to the streets. Did they go to the streets? They didn't. KA staff have been trying to do some protests. It's never been anything major. They just do something for 20 minutes, take photos, and then that's the end of that. Your parliament and every other person is quiet. Yes, there is a court order, but how many court orders have they ignored? As we speak today, how many court orders is this government ignoring? So it makes me sick to know that this is a done deal. There is little or no chance that Kenyans will stop this deal. It's a very bad deal. In fact, let me tell you, there is actually no proof that Adani will spend that money in this country. There's really no one is asking them to deposit that money somewhere. We're giving them out of goodwill, hoping that they will spend 250 billion in Kenya. If they decide not to spend, as long as we've already given them the airport. So we're giving them our airport. In fact, they're saying by 1st of November, they'll have taken over everything. So in the deal, the first thing is to give out the airport, not even to renovate. I've never seen such a bad deal. I don't know if the people who negotiate what they were negotiating, because how do you start by giving out the airport? Giving out operations, giving out everything. We are handing over the airport to the Adani even before they start anything. If these guys decide not to spend a coin, the thing is, it's the Kenyan government that will pay them. There's so many clauses. There are so many clauses that they are saying, oh, if we don't collect revenue for 7 days, we'll be paid by the government. If they don't operate, I don't know for how many days because of say maandamano or something like natural calamities or whatever. As long as the Adani is not operational for 7 days in a year, 7 days in a year, we have to pay them. 7 days in a year is basically just 2-3 days of calamity and 2-3 days of I don't know what. It's such a bad deal. For $2 billion, as Anthony is saying, we deserve a new airport. Not even for the very least. Why are they not doing a runway? Not a single runway. Nothing. Hawa sasa wanakuja tu kupaka rangi ndio tuwape airport. Kupaka rangi, kuleta viti mpya, and to do some maybe counters, 1 or 2, 3 new counters. What is the difference between that and I saw some renovation in Machakos County where they were renovating a dispensary that is not even being used, and they put in, I think, 3 new iron sheets for 4 new iron sheets for 4 million shillings. It's the same thing. Like, these guys are coming here. We are literally handing over our airport to the Adani with nothing. What have they given us? Nothing. Nothing. They've only given us a commitment to spend 250 billion there. Even if they don't spend that amount, we can't prove it. And we can't force them to spend that amount of money. It's not like they're depositing the money in central bank for us to know. They're not. They're saying we give them the airport, then from there they will spend 250 billion over 30 years. In fact, the spending of the money is not the thing that's been said is we will give them for 30 years. The 250 billion, no one is telling them when they can spend it. They can take the airport tomorrow and start spending that money 15 years later. It is such a bad deal that I don't know why we have to auction our country. We have to auction the only entry point to this country. It is the only entry point. Unless you go through the port. There is no other way. If you're coming from, say, the US, unless ushuke Uganda ukuja na matatu. It is the only entry point to this country. It should be the last thing for any president, especially a president that has only a 5-year term. It should be the last thing that we should allow them to give out for 60 years, for 30 years, or whatever. Is there anything we can do? I don't know. I don't know. Even if we feel like you want mandamano, how will you get it done, man? KA staff have gone to mandamano and they've been broken down. University students have been unable to go to mandamano with such a bad deal. I don't know what happened overnight. They just decided not to go to the street. Okay, PP. I leave it there, man.
Without they, you forgot to say that they went. They released like a statement. Coupet also. I don't know what is happening with strikes these days. I miss
also.
those days.
NAP also. What happened to NAP? Nothing.
Walifinywa.
Nothing. So the thing is, if you say, oh, we will go and occupy JKIA, how will that thing happen? How do you think you will get it done? Even if the 70 of us in this space decide to go to JKIA, tutafukuzwa tu hapo kwa gate. Nafikiria JKIA ni place tu utaingia sijui aje. And imagine your parliament is quiet. Completely. Sold out. Back to you, PP. Sorry.
Thank you for that, Diamonds. I want to hear from Marabu Stocks. Marabu Stocks has raised it. Alikuwa anaweka emojis. Were you trying to speak to us, Marabu Stocks?
Wagwan, PP.
Yeah, Wagwan.
Man, I just heard Anthony speaking something which just, I don't know, my heart just cringed because I'm not sure if I heard correct, but I heard Anthony saying something like, we don't have a choice. We can just renegotiate or something like that. It's like he was giving an idea that this deal is already through. Anyway, he will answer that. And I also have another question for Anthony. I've seen you, by the way, big up. I respect everything you're doing. I saw what you did with Onyonka. I hear you're going to be conjoined with LSK on the legal front on this other side, which is also commendable. But I want to know, is there a time limit? Because I'm seeing Nelson, the Wilson Blower, also saying that they want to sign this deal by next week. The government is pushing so hard to sign this deal by next week. So I saw you made a urgency. You filed under notice of urgency. So I want to know what time limit do we have for this thing? Because as you've heard, the government does not respect the courts. You might be going to court and the next week everything is being signed. For Australia, I think it was was asking. Australia, Adani wanted to he was mining coal in Australia, and what he wanted to do, he wanted to commit the biggest crime of the century by using his trawlers to pass through the Great Barrier Reef. The Great Barrier Reef is one of the most protected